Next up from the Walt Disney Company is killing Bambi, or at least killing the memory of one of the greatest films that Walt himself ever made, and we have a clip for you today.
Should have taken the shot, fat ass.
The power of panic compels you!
Got him!
Renegade Online.
Well, folks, welcome back. Another great day here at Valiant Renegade. It's good to see everybody out there once again. And if you are like one of the many folks watching this video, not yet subscribed to this channel, please take a moment and turn that little red subscribe button to gray. Hit that like button, hit that notification bell, share this sucker out on the social medias, and of course, please do leave a comment before you head out the door today, and make sure to join us 6 p.m. Eastern every Sunday for the live show. If you thought the House of Mouse and the Walt Disney Company would learn its lesson after a string of recent failures with remakes and people eye-rolling, people skipping the theaters on things like The Little Mermaid by and large, and people already checked out of Snow White, which isn't even due for another 6 months, well, you were wrong. Live-action Bambi writer says the film is being made so that kids, quote, relate to it a little bit more, hence that it will soften Bambi's mom's death. Who are these writers and who are these kids that this writer is talking about? I mean, dear Lord, this movie has been beloved and enjoyed for nearly 5 generations of children at this point. This article from our friend John Trent and the crew over at Bounding Into Comics, Lindsey Beer, who is currently promoting her Pet Sematary Bloodlines film. Wait, what? Yep, here's Lindsey Beer, who is the writer-director for this new Bambi remake that Disney is doing. And here is her big current project with Paramount, Pet Sematary Bloodlines. Yes, the same Stephen King Pet Sematary. She's writing horror movies, and now she's going to make Bambi. And she wants to soften the image of Bambi's mom's death, but Pet Sematary. Before I go any further, I have a billion-dollar movie idea. Remake Bambi and do a crossover with Pet Sematary. After Bambi's mom gets shot, you bury her in the Pet Sematary, and then she comes back as a zombie to go chase down the hunters. I would actually pay to go see this Disney movie. So in a recent interview with Collider magazine, Beer was asked by Perry Nemiroff, quote, I guess the question is often like, why? Why do we need another one? So going back to how you described Pet Sematary, what is something about the classic version of Bambi that you think is important to hold tight to, but also how are you going to answer the question of why? Why do we need a new version? We don't. We don't need a new version of Bambi, but Disney is so creatively bankrupt, this is the only thing they can do nowadays is to keep going back to the well, pulling up classics, and then destroying them. Beer answered, well, what's interesting about Bambi to me is that it absolutely is a classic, and it's a beautiful love poem with such artistry to it that I guess she wants to change it. I do think there's an entire generation of children who have never seen the original, and that's very different from, say, Little Mermaid or Aladdin or the 90s heyday films that they've definitely already seen. I can't tell you how many kids who've never seen Bambi, which is such a shame. She continued, the thing is, it's such a gorgeous film. It's a little bit different tempo than modern audiences are used to. Well, I would tend to agree with that, considering the average Hollywood film these days is a giant steaming pile of crap compared to the average quality that we got just, say, 30 to 40 years ago. From there, Beer shares why she believes children have not seen Bambi. Quote, there's a treatment of, not to spoil the plot, seriously, there's a treatment of the mom dying, and I think that some kids, some parents see these days are more sensitive about that than they were in the past, and I think that's one of the reasons that they haven't shown it to their children. But I do think that there is a way to update Bambi. So instead of taking the opportunity to tell the story as it was originally told in its best and purest form, something that she says, in her own words, was a gorgeous piece of art, no, she is going to dumb it down to modern audiences. That being said, I don't even particularly agree with her assessment of kids having or having not seen it and why. Our take on it did give a little bit more of a scope to it, and I just think that to be able to bring it to life for kids these days in a way that maybe they relate to it a little bit more would be of service to the original, she concluded. You want to be of service to the original? Fantastic. Don't do a remake. But too bad, America, you're getting it anyway, because you know what? Hashtag Disney dumb. Yeah, no, please, once again, take the opportunity to make the film correctly. This is why Disney continues to fail with these things over and over and over again. Instead of using what they already control, that version of Bambi is purely owned by Disney. They don't have to pay rights out to other people to do it, but they feel like they have to keep mucking up the works, just like they did with The Little Mermaid, just like they're set to do with Snow White, which is undoubtedly going to be another massive theatrical disaster. If Bambi hasn't been watched by that many kids these days, what is Disney really expecting then? If this writer-director is correct, what kind of audience are they expecting to come into this if they really believe that modern audiences have this stigma of Bambi? Is this going to fall flat just like the rest of the things they've done in live action, at least in the last 2 or 3 years? Probably so. And they're not helping themselves by already giving people a heads up right now that, hey, we're changing the story again. And I'd have to believe that's probably not all they're going to do to it. And if Miss Beer is correct that children of this generation just haven't seen Bambi because of parents thinking that it has some kind of stigma due to the mother's death, what is Disney going to want people to do to get ready to see this live-action adaptation of Bambi? They're going to want these parents and kids watching the original cartoon on Disney Plus or physical media or whatever, meaning that kids are going to watch the cartoon version probably before seeing the live-action version, which would 100% prepare them for what they're going to see in the theater, so why change it to begin with? This is quite honestly one of the big reasons that The Little Mermaid flopped like it did in theaters. And the reason The Little Mermaid tanked was because they changed everything up. You had a perfect 89-minute runtime film back in 1990 with the original. But in this case, they changed how Ariel looked. They added an extra 45 minutes of runtime and a bunch of god-awful new music that did not fit and people hated. The biggest thing about that movie was the soundtrack originally, and that's what kept it perpetuating for 30 years in sales. But Disney is going to go right back to that empty well and give us another modernized version of a classic that everybody already knows and loves. And they're going to cause audiences to question why even bother going to see it in the first place. The real problem for Disney, of course, is that Wall Street has already begun to take sharp notice of its theatrical doldrums. That's not something that has ever happened before, at least not in recent history, the last 20 years especially for Disney. But over and over again, we see Wall Street analysts and investors out there questioning, wait, you know, we're talking about broadcast TV and we're talking about streaming and we're talking about park revenues, but what's going on with Disney's theatrical slate? Why is everything they're putting in the box office struggling or outright failing its butt off? Well, it's because of stuff like this. And somebody had better get a hold of somebody at Disney and say, if you're going to do remakes, then do the remake in live action and do it exactly as the original was. Don't make significant changes to the story. Do what you have to do to adapt it to a live-action version, certainly, but making major story changes, major character changes, things like they did in The Little Mermaid with Ariel, and not just casting a black actress, but also not making Eric the hero at the end of the day to make the story arc fit. No, it was Ariel. It had to be about girl power, and now we're going to get the same thing with Snow White. What the hell are they going to do with Bambi? People just don't trust Disney anymore to be able to make a competent film, and quite frankly, that's Disney's fault. That's completely on them because they keep giving us reasons to roll our eyes and question everything they do. The people out there on Wall Street are going to have to be the ones to step in and start fixing this because they cannot continue to throw this kind of money down these toilets over and over again like they do. But let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Make sure to like and subscribe, and until next time, take care. Make sure you're subscribed to Valiant Renegade and join us every Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern for the live show.